Welcome to the Museum Roadshow. It's May 2012. We're over here at the Lake Park High School where we're going to be talking about the history of this building with some former teachers and students.
The structure that we're sitting in right now was built in 1890, and it served the district for a long time. And prior to that, I understand that Lake Park had a rather elaborate school building in place, and that had burned down. So in a short period of time, they reconstructed this. So that was the start of the structure as it sits today. So this area has been repurposed many different times for different uses. When we first started talking to people about the need for facility upgrade or possible replacement, and we walked through the building with individuals, you talk to people of different generations, and they'll tell you that, well, this was the assembly hall, or this was the shop room, this was the office, this was the library. So things changed just in from one generation to the next. So when we think about going back to prior to 1900, when this was a K-12 facility, or maybe it was even a K-8 at that time, not sure, but there's been a lot of changes. The area that we're sitting in right now is currently our media center, but I do know that it's been divided into other spaces. I do know that it was the industrial shop or the woodworking shop at one time. They talk about the floor having waves in it, and that's due to some of the heavy equipment that they had in this facility at that time. People have talked about they remember spaces being the library, but for others it was the English room, and for others it was the office. The other section of this building, there was a section built in 1922 which still houses a large number of our classrooms. So when this was a K-12 building prior to 1989, all of our students, kindergarten through senior high, were basically in these two buildings up until 1960, when there was an addition added to the space. So they function in a lot smaller location. The way education's changed today, we have so many other special programs. Our curriculum has expanded dramatically since then. So right now, with the addition of our 1960 and 1971, we fill this space. And we use every corner for an office or for storage rooms and for classrooms. So it has served us really well. Beyond the 1922, there was a section built in 1956 that combined or connected the two older portions of the building. There was an addition in 1959, which was rather unique. They did the bottom floor on two sides of a hallway, and on the top level, they did the hallway in one side of the classrooms because of funding, and then years later, they added the other half of the second story on at that time. And then since then, we've had a gymnasium that was added in 1989, and we've had handicap improvements with elevators that happened in 2000. So it was over 100 years in making of this facility. What I appreciate the most when people came through the building and talked about their time, they talked about the facility with a lot of sentiment and a lot of feeling, and you don't necessarily get that from our current students who see this as an old age of facility, but those people had very fond memories of their classmates and the classes that they took and the things that they learned within the facility. So they are very proud of the education that Lake Park had provided to them in this facility.
Well, I started teaching here in 1957, and I taught 5th grade. And I taught 5th grade for quite a few years, and some of the memories I had, I remember some of my students, when they finished their work, I had 2 boys in particular that would go and get encyclopedias and read. So that was really quite a classroom. I enjoyed having them very much. At the beginning, when we were teaching, we had outdoor duty at noon, where we supervised the kids. We didn't have them play any specific type of game, but we did let them get their exercise. And I remember one time we were on hall duty, another teacher and I, and the mother said we were the hall bosses, one of the mothers, which is kind of an interesting period to think about. Oh, one of the things I liked to do was teach my students to memorize poetry. And one of the ones we memorized was How Do You Like to Go Up in a Swing? And by Robert Louis Stevenson. And after they had it memorized, then we went out and swang. So they got to enjoy not only learning the poem, but going out and feeling what it was like to swing. We had 2 5th grades, 2 6th grades. I think we had 2 of every grade when I first started. I think it was the consolidation of country schools about that time that was what got me the job here. And I had taught previously, but I stayed in Lake Park until they consolidated with Audubon. Then we moved over to the Audubon school, the elementary did. And I taught in Lake Park here for 36 years. So it's been quite an interesting period. And the first room I had was quite a large room, and it was in the older part of the building. And then where the superintendent's office is now, that was a new addition in between the 2 sections. And I had a room there, and it was all glass block. And in the cold winter, the glass block would crack, and there would be glass splinters around. So we had to be very careful going near that section of the wall.
In high school, I think Mrs. Olson, not my mom, but Inez Olson, was maybe one of my favorite teachers. She was a biology teacher, and so then in college, then I majored in biology and agriculture, and ended up teaching agriculture for a number of years, and now I work with dairy farmers and do some farming myself. So kind of got sort of a start here at the school. We also had a really, at least for me, a really good band and choir, and I was in the boys vocal quartet, and in the band and in the choir. And you know, one of the things about this school being small like it is there are so many extracurricular activities, and because you can participate in just about anything. You know, it's not like a large school where your chances of making the basketball team are 0 or none because there's 500 guys going out for the sport. You know, here you have a chance of making the different sports teams, or being in the band, being in the choir, whatever. So.
Make sure you join us next week when we hear from more former students about their memories of the Lake Park School.